Welcome to Chapter 7, The Duck is on the Floor, Truth and Illusion. A friend and I were walking down the street in the heart of Chicago. Headed, I imagine, to find some food. Finding food is one of the very few selected reasons to be on the street in Chicago after dark, especially in the winter, from September 7th to April 14th, when the temperature drops low enough to cause all life functions to cease and then be blown away in the hurricane-like winds that roar through the ice-encrusted buildings. The other is to find entertainment, like the plethora of small theaters where actual actors stand on an actual stage and recite memorized lines. Or they drink beer and make it up as they go. I've been to both kinds of theater in Chicago, and the lesson there is, you get what you pay for. Of course, if you want to forego all the live actors, you can go find a movie theater or go to a friend's itsy-bitsy teeny-weeny one-bedroom apartment and watch a movie. We were not doing any of those things, so we must have been going for food, and by food I mean possibly coffee, since coffee is a food group which many city dwellers live on almost exclusively. Through the harsh and whipping winds, I was making casual conversation about how Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life, which was sort of a new thing for me back then. Not the truth of it, but me talking about it casually with people who hadn't explicitly asked me about it. Her reply was, well, that may be true for you, but it's not true for me. Her tone was so matter-of-fact that it was obvious she was not being sarcastic. I pondered her words and came to the conclusion that her brain must have frozen in the high winds. I started walking faster toward our destination, certain that haste would be imperative to our survival. "But what do you mean it's not true for you?" I asked. "Something is either true or it's not. There's no personal taste involved with reality." Again, she disagreed and told me, "Hey, it's great that you believe that, but it's not true for me." She said it in the plain matter-of-fact way in which one might say, "This smells like the number 5. I started to think she'd simply gone mad from an ice-encrusted cerebellum. Started to lose hope. Later, it would become clear to me that her brains had not frozen, but had been washed, if you catch my meaning. She had grasped onto one of the new philosophies being shoved down the throats of students at many colleges. This philosophy is that there are two kinds of reality, objective and subjective. Essentially, some things are true for everyone, like Tuesdays, the difference between centimeters and inches, or everything bagels. In addition, there are things that are only true if you believe in them. Most people who hold this view will put any morals or religious faith into the second category, and this is what my friend was doing. A thinking person might say, maybe they are simply saying that some things are just personal opinions, such as whether or not onion chunks are good in chili. This is not what this philosophy means. It means, I think your belief is stupid, but to say so would be close-minded, so I'll pretend that you have your own little world. This is how Sox fans address the optimism of Cubs fans around here. Right, next year will be different. Editor's note, this was funnier before 2016? These kind of jokes would have worked consistently from 1908 until 2016, and then the Cubs thoughtlessly ruined this for me. But I digress. This philosophy actually means, and some people really try to believe this, that some things are true for you and not true for them at the same time. You each have your own experience of reality. I'm sorry, you each have not your own experience of reality, but in fact, your own personal reality. This idea has its roots in Zen philosophy. I'd explain what Zen is, except that there is no definition. I've read Zen books. I even went to what claimed to be the official Zen website, and the only thing they all said is, the only way to know what Zen is to experience it. Although they freely admit you may think you're having a Zen experience, but you're really having a bad intestinal reaction from overdoing the spicy salsa on your burrito. Putting onion chunks in your chili might be another cause. Oh, I think I need an antacid. I'm having a Zen experience from that chili. It seems silly to the point of insane, but it's actually just the tip of the iceberg. The follow-up philosophy is this. There is no reality at all. Everything is subjective. Things are what you perceive or believe or choose them to be. There are serious flaws with this theory, the main one being that it's wrong. I had to explain this to a cousin of mine once. We were sitting in my living room, and he was sticking to the idea that what I perceive is true for me, and I was trying to explain that reality exists outside of our perceptions, or we would have nothing to perceive. I held up one of my 80 yellow rubber ducks that were all over the house. Suppose I believed this was a bright red bowling ball. Would that make it so? In your perception, it would be, he replied. But would it be a bright red bowling ball? Or is it a rubber duck? Well, I perceive it to be a rubber duck. Are you right? I asked. From my point of view, I am. This was making me insane. He was a college student. Isn't higher education supposed to make you smarter? Maybe it just makes you higher, but I digress. I held the duck out and I said, okay, I'm going to convince myself absolutely beyond a doubt that when I let go of this duck, it will float to the ceiling. Are you ready? And I dropped the duck. It fell to the floor next to me and I continued, let's say I really thought the duck was going to go up. And let's say I perceived the duck floating up. Even now, I can see the duck above me on the ceiling. Can I get the duck off the ceiling? If I got a ladder and climbed to the ceiling, would I come down with the duck? Where is the duck right now? Where do you have to go to get the duck? He eventually admitted that the duck was on the floor. It took me 40 minutes to get a college student to admit that a rubber duck was on the floor. Colleges used to teach people how to think, and now they teach them not to. This explains why he never cleaned up after himself. You need to do the dishes, I'd say. That's just your perception, man. Well, the idea that truth is subjective sounds great, because no one ever has to admit being wrong. It's also really nuts. It's kooky dukes, wrapped in optimism and artificial sweeteners. The duck is on the floor, whether you perceive it or not. Like most wacky ideas of this kind, you just have to apply the idea to itself. Is it true for everyone that truth is subjective, or is it only true for you? Try that one out on someone. If they say it's only true for them, then you can tell them that you have a monopoly on truth because you perceive reality the way it really is, regardless of your point of view. They'll be tempted to argue that their philosophy is true for everyone, at which point you can point out they have acknowledged a universal truth which is objective, proving that objective truth does exist, allowing for some viewpoints to be more or less true depending on how their perception lines up with what is real. At this point, they'll take their grande, skinny, sugar-free caramel latte and storm out into the blustery Chicago night in a rage. But don't worry if your friends don't come back to you. Just wait until the spring thaw. They'll turn up somewhere when the snow starts to melt. Trust me on this one.
Jesus loves you is the message we send. Thanks for letting me be your rental friend. You're listening to Rent a Friend Radio.